My next guest wants to sue Al Gore for fraud. He hopes a legal challenge will settle the global warming debate once and for all. He's John Coleman, and he founded the Weather Channel.
I am proposing that the Federal Reserve be granted new authority.
The ultimate goal of the carbon tax and the cap and trade is to destroy production.
You're going to bankrupt this country on this notion of cap and trade.
The carbon tax will impact every endeavour of human life.
At a meeting of central bank heads and finance ministers dubbed Bretton Woods II, the plan for world government was unveiled by the very bankers that had engineered the collapse. Formerly sovereign countries would now pay their taxes directly to the banking cartel.
They've been preparing for this new world order for a long time. They helped create it. Look at how Al Gore has positioned himself. He has profited on the hysteria he created, increasing his personal wealth 50 to 100 times or more.
Well, yes, I'm a partner at Kleiner Perkins.
So you're a partner in Kleiner Perkins. Okay. Now, they have invested about $1 billion in 40 companies that are going to benefit from cap and trade legislation. So is the legislation that we are discussing here today, is that something that you are going to personally benefit from?
I believe that the transition to a green economy is good for our economy and good for all of us. And I have invested in it.
The overwhelming consensus on a carbon price is a consensus in opposition. The Australian people don't want a carbon tax.
Every home and business in the United States would be federally regulated and controlled. Mandatory home inspections will be carried out by federal inspectors, and it's all at the expense of the homeowner.
Go to page 235. The Secretary may set and collect reasonable inspection fees to cover the cost of inspections required. So number one, they can come in, the federal government can come in and inspect your house and send you the bill. And if they find that you're out of compliance with this new federal code, the Secretary shall assess a civil penalty for violations of this section. And then further, going to page 236, each day of unlawful occupancy shall be considered a separate violation. We're setting up a global warming Gestapo that can literally come in, and now this new term, unlawful occupancy. So now living in your home is considered unlawful under this bill. This is ludicrous.
You're going to bankrupt this country on this notion of cap and trade.
Look, I got no problem. Anybody wants to be a capitalist, I got no problem on that. But while you're increasing the fortunes of the elites, they're also galvanizing their power and setting up global governance. And he's living in a mansion that is using 10 times the amount of electricity that you and I are supposed to use. Just don't be a hypocrite about it, Al.
So Europe has in its DNA the know-how for governing globalization.
And one of the ways it will drive the change is through global governance and global agreements.
It's the World Wrestling Federation. It's the Washington Wrestling Federation. They put on this show that they're bitter rivalries, you know, villains, and they really don't like each other. But behind closed doors, they buddy up for a drink and make deals.
Both the Republican and Democratic parties are owned by the same global elites.
The fact that we are debating this 1.5 reams of legislation, 18 or 19 bills, to impose a carbon tax is the legislative proof of Labor's deceit and of Labor's contempt for the Australian people.
And I know that we'll be facing the single moms that heard from last summer. They can't afford the gasoline bill. They can't afford the propane. You didn't do a great thing. You hurt some really decent families struggling, trying to make it, and this is going to be their death knell. It breaks my heart. I yield back.
The ALP have not only lost the moral compass, they have lost their policy map as well.
This country is the only nation that can lead the world. Other nations understand that. It's not inappropriate American pride to state it. It's simply a fact.
So Europe has in its DNA the know-how for governing globalization.
We then have the other example that we will have a lot of green jobs. All the world's studies have shown that for every green job created, there is a huge taxpayer subsidy to it, and about 2 or 3 mainstream jobs suffer and fall by the wayside. As a result, there is a net loss of jobs.
In California, 3,000 people will be employed to build a new solar plant that will create 1,000 jobs.
It's costing 40 to 60,000 jobs this year and a $6 billion hit to our economy. That is not global warming. That is not global warming that's causing problems in our forests. It's the result of bad policy because of environmental alarmism. And I think that current debate over global warming and cap and trade is another result of environmental alarmism.
And you talk about carbon, and I'm running out of time. We talk about carbon polluters. You talk about them. It's my understanding that back in 1997, when you were vice president, Enron's CEO, Ken Lay, was involved in discussions with you at the White House about helping develop this type of policy, this trading scheme. And is that accurate? Is it inaccurate? It's been reported.
I don't know, but I met with Ken Lay, as lots of people did, before anybody knew that he was a crook. Before anybody knew that he was a crook. He was a crook.
Yeah. Well, now there are 30,000 of us. We have 30,000 scientists, 9,000 PhDs, who have signed up to debunk global warming.
He was a crook.